Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you had already a great session today and a great summit. And thank you all for being here today. And have you ever wondered how you can make your business really, truly exceptional? Or what about unlocking the full potential of all the data you have already collected in your company and using your technology investments again? I'm Christian, I'm an AWS Solution Architect, and today I have Stefan Holhaus, Head of Cloud and Basic Technology from our customer Swarovski on stage. And we show you how they did their technical journey and how they moved their on-prem SAP environment to RISE with SAP on AWS. So let's crack into more details, and I want to set the stage before passing over to Stefan today. Considering that because you are here today on that session, that you're probably also dealing with modernizing your SAP workloads, right? And you also see a lot of challenges were listed here on the screen. So you don't have to read that, but we see a lot of discussions with our customers that they have compelling events. For example, changing hardware and software, or just modernize and accelerate the application and the environment. And often you have a hardware-software end-of-date contract, or just simple ending software licensing or maintenance. But maybe guys of yours also looking for other ways, for example, reducing the cost, or how can you improve the decision-making based on data points you have already within the company, but you cannot access them. And of course, you're here to support the growth of your company, the growth objective. That should be possible. And running SAP on AWS is a well-proven way, and a lot of customers decided to do that. And we see increasingly the demand of companies and customers like you who choose RISE with SAP on AWS. So I talked a lot about the RISE, but what is RISE in detail? RISE, and maybe before talking about RISE, SAP is a global ERP software, right? So you know already what SAP is, hopefully because you are here today. And they're running customer workloads for decades for you and running a lot of mission-critical workloads. But RISE with SAP shows just a commitment to you and help you to move to the cloud and your ERP migration to the cloud. RISE itself is a complete package. As you can see on the screen, it includes cloud solutions, the infrastructure, but also the services which helps you, the professional services, to help you to migrate your on-prem situation to the cloud. RISE with SAP helps you to speed up the transformation because it de-risks your projects. It reduces the failure because they have pre-implemented methodologies how you can move from on-prem SAP to RISE with SAP. So, and of course, RISE that gives you a single service level agreement, which is very important when it comes to troubleshooting and all that stuff. So, building on all that points, what the RISE with SAP offering gives you, it is an imperative to choose the right cloud provider, right? So you need a right decision, and the choice matters because you want to have the maximum performance in SAP, of course. You want to be protected against business disruptions, so you want to be 24/7 online with your mission-critical processes. And you also want to enable that you can innovate faster. So how can you do that? And we're helping you to accelerate the move to RISE. But what is very important, and it is foundational, that we have a good infrastructure under the hood where SAP and RISE is running on it. And we as AWS can deliver that infrastructure. Let's examine a little bit on the global infrastructure we can deliver. You maybe already know the global infrastructure picture we have. So we have 108 availability zones, and we have 34 geographic regions around the world. And we also announced plans for 18 additional availability zones in 6 more regions. So we are still not stopping building new regions and new availability zones to come closer to you. SAP is, as of today, in 32 out of 34 regions available. But maybe you have noticed exactly 2 weeks of today, we announced the Malaysia region with 3 availability zones, and there the RISE offering will be available very soon. Availability zone itself is one or more discrete data centers with redundant networking, cooling, but also redundant connectivity within the region. In an AWS region is a minimum of 3 isolated, separated availability zones within a geographic region. Why I'm talking about that? Because this design allows SAP to offer you a so-called short distance recovery. Stefan will go on to that point a little bit deeper, why it is important for Swarovski doing short distance recovery. And this is available in each region where RISE for SAP is available. And this is just possible because of our low latency links between the availability zones. And this allows synchronous replication of data between the SAP systems, which gives you an RPO, a recovery point object of 0. And this is also an important point for Swarovski. But we're not stopping in innovating in the infrastructure under the hood. We're also committing us to bring you the best performance and capacity you can get on EC2 instances. And in May 2024, we announced a new Amazon high memory instance. It's called U7i, which gives you the capacity of 32 terabytes of memory and 869 vCPUs in one single instance. And this is the answer of the question, I want to be flexible with the expanding demands an SAP HANA database brings, also maybe for the future. And we're not stopping here, right? But when customers already deployed a successful installation of RISE with SAP in AWS, they're often switching their focus more to the business side. That means also business processes should be transformed and should be more cloudish, more agile, so that you can try things out. And AWS and SAP have several hundred services we offer together, and that helps you to transform the business. But what is important, and we got information from customers, they shared us 3 focus topics, how they were able to transform the business. And I want to just share 3 with you today. One of them is rematching your business. That helps the companies or you as customer to become faster, more efficient and more agile. So you have advantages compared to your competitors. And the second point is to better understand your own customers. You need to unlock data, right? You have the data, but with the new services, you can unlock the data insights. You can use data analytics services direct from AWS. And the third point is that you can continuously adapt and innovate. That means the system is running for you. You can try things out. We call it in AWS two-way or a one-way door decision, right? So if a one-way decision, it's really critical to make it. But if you have a two-way decision, then you can go back and try plan B. And that gives you the flexibility to do that. But what capabilities do we have that helps you to develop a new culture of innovation, to change the mindset, but also to get more insights, or just rematching the business processes? I just picked 2 because we don't have enough time today to go more deeper. But one thing is, and I think you heard it a lot today, if you already were in breakout sessions, and we're talking about developing generative AI. And I promise that's the only thing I will mention it today. But it's important because AI solutions or generative AI solutions helps you to improve and innovate, of course, your applications, and maybe makes it more sophisticated. And now it's even easier for SAP customers to use Amazon Bedrock, because SAP announced that we are available in the SAP Generative AI Hub. That means with SAP technology, you can directly access Amazon Bedrock, And then you can access, for example, Anthropic cloud models, or you can directly access Amazon Titan models. And this helps you when you have services running on the SAP Business Technology Platform, for short BTP, the services can access that directly. And that helps you to keep the ERP core as clean as possible, right? And that is a point where we want to go to. Another point is, and we announced that last year in June, is the AWS SDK for SAP ABAP. As SAP developer, you know already ABAP language, right? So you're doing your processes, programming and developing then in ABAP. And with that SDK, you get access to our 200 plus AWS services natively, because that integrates natively, with the benefit that your architecture looks easier, it's simpler, it's not so complex anymore, because you can directly leverage AWS services. So with that, I have covered some of the key benefits you get when you're using RISE with SAP on AWS. But now, I'd like to invite Stefan from Swarovski to share his perspective on the technical journey, moving SAP from on-prem to RISE with SAP.
Thanks, Christian. It's a pleasure to be here, and also thank you for this great introduction. I think this gave already a good introduction, a good insight of the benefits and features of SAP RISE. We are Swarovski. We are a family-grown business. Our heart of digital is in Austria, in the heart of the Alps in Tyrol. A great office. Christian had already the chance to see it, a great place to work. We are Swarovski. We are manufacturing company and reseller in one company. We operate more than 3,500 shops. Half are operated by our own, the other half by partners. As mentioned before, we are manufacturer and reseller. This means we have to support from a digital perspective the whole supply chain, from production to resell. This is a huge challenge, also a huge challenge for such migration projects, because we must be up and running 24/7, 365 days a year, because we are running our business around the globe. We as Swarovski see digital as a key enabler to LuxIgnite. LuxIgnite is our corporate strategy to achieve our vision and our goals for the next few years. Digitalization and the use of digital solutions are the key enablers to generate value for our company. For us and for such cloud projects, strategy is a key enabler. LuxIgnite is more or less the roof of our strategy. From this strategy, we defined our digital strategy, which was at the end the mother of our cloud strategy, which gave us the foundation for our few years journey. In 2022, we started, based on our LuxIgnite, our journey. 2022, we saw that our data centers, which were run on-premise by our own teams, getting more and more smaller, because more and more solutions were replaced by software as a service solutions. So the total cost of ownership of running our own data centers were already critical. So there was a decision to transform our data centers. In the past, we operated 2 data centers in Austria, which we moved now to global data centers in the cloud. Key focus is to build on software as a service products. As we can see, the idea is, in most cases, we try to enable software as a service, but this doesn't mean we don't, from digital, we don't see that we do tech project just because we technically can do it. It must be always a business case, it must be always value for the company. It doesn't mean if there is on a slide we do software as a service, that we just do software as a service for any price tag. It's just if it brings value to the company. So the idea is trying to build first on software as a service, bringing the rest to cloud data centers for infrastructure as a service. Plus, and we are realistic, we expect that we still have some loads on premise. We call those HDCs, those are data centers we operate for our production plants, for mass data, for latency issues. We still keep small, really small resized data centers for those purposes. This strategy brought us also to a decision what we want to do with our SAP data centers, with our SAP data load at the end. Why? More than 60% of our compute load is SAP in our data center. To find a strategic placement for those systems was essential for us. As I mentioned before, we don't do anything just because we technically can do it. It must always be a business case and there must always be value for the company. So we started comparing 3 scenarios. The existing on-premise scenario, running SAP on-premise with existing licenses, assisted by partners which also are already in place, compared with moving the load to AWS and operate it fully by partners. In this point of time, SAP comes up with RISE with SAP, and we started comparing those solutions, which at the end brought us to the conclusion we go with RISE with SAP. What were the main reasons? I would say one essential reason was it is the strategic way also from the vendor SAP for this product. New features, new functionalities, as Christian already mentioned. An evergreen is always in the cloud. Go with the strategic of the vendor is always the right choice. So this was one of the reasons. Also the next reason was, as it is the standard technology of SAP, they also offer methodologies to run it. We can build on existing methodologies to run it and not have to design ways to run the system with a partner. Plus commercial aspects coming from a perpetual license to a strategic rental license has also advantages for us to always get the full value of our investments as a company. To also prepare, we also included in these calculations of a 5 years business case. And we also included, Christian has more insights, maybe also we discussed about foundings with the hyperscalers. We also evaluated the right sizing. We learned SAP not offers each load size on each hyperscaler, so the advantages are we try to right size our systems to get the maximum value out of our money, which brought us at the end to the decision to go with RISE with SAP. The idea how we migrated was a little bit different maybe to other customers. Our decision was a lift and shift approach. What does it mean? SAP always mentioned today this S4 approach. S4 is the new technology. Our idea was first, we fulfill our cloud roadmap, our cloud strategy, bringing 60% of our load to the cloud. So the approach was lift and shift. We migrate our existing systems with the existing software level to the cloud, which was quite a challenge because we made this decision mid of December last year. And the goal from our management was migrate all systems in 18 months. All 16 SAP landscapes in 18 months. Sounds feasible, but also keep in mind, we have this 24/7, 365 days limitation, which also means, for example, Christmas season is for us, it's a peak season for us. You cannot migrate anything for 3 months over the Christmas period. So the 18 months are reduced already from the beginning to 12 months. That's the starting point. I mentioned it before. It's a strategic decision. We have to discuss with our business and with our management first. First of all, the decision going to the cloud was already a strategic decision. And the second and the most important step is, how is your disaster scenario? In default, SAP RISE with SAP has no high availability. The smallest package is without high availability. As I mentioned before, our business is 24/7. Losing data would be a nightmare. Our warehouses would not work anymore if we would lose data. If we would lose orders, we could not fulfill our orders. So a data loss would be would never been accepted from our business, which brought us at the end to our solution that we go with near or short distance HR by SAP. This technology bases on SAP HANA and needs two availability zones. I think you call it availability zones.
Correct.
I came from the SAP area, so I always need an AWS expert on my side for the methodology and for the terms in the AWS world. The replication itself is based, as mentioned, on SAP HANA, the database. And with the near distance means that the two availability zones are in a distance less than 100 kilometers, give us the availability that we always are 100% sure, technically guaranteed, that each commitment is stored on both sides every time, which is a must-have for us because, as mentioned before, a data loss by a technical issue, by a burning data center, whatever, would be a no-go for our business. That was the decision. We go with a short distance scenario. Compared, there are other disasters which could be addressed. I have discussed this with a lot of other AWS or with a lot of SAP customers in the world. There could be more interesting that you are independent for global disasters, for blackouts, for example. Then long distance there would be an option. This would mean that your second data SAP system and database is running in another
region.
Another region in this case. But would end in, if you have a technical issue, for example, that you could lose data for minutes, maybe 10 minutes, 20 minutes, which would be for our business a no-go because this would end up that we have to check all our warehouses, we would lose orders, we would stop our business for weeks at the end to get up and running again.
But that gives you a future option, right? So at any point of time, you want to be regional independent, right?
Christian, if the sky is the limit, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Commercial-wise, we made the decision to address this risk and accept the other risk at the end. But it's important for me to mention, on the SAP side, this is an additional product and an additional service. It's not out of the box, you would get just one availability zone. "18 months, or as mentioned before, 12 months it was easy. It sounds, not a big issue. In reality, and a lot of SAP customers have the same topic, our SAP systems were running on Windows. SAP RISE is just running on Linux. Maybe some of you would say, oh, why are you running on Windows? It's a historical decision, and it was always just migrating to Linux is a nightmare. Christian, any ideas why it could be a nightmare to migrate to Linux?
If I may guess, I would say changing from Windows to Linux has some implications, especially I think when you're accessing files, right? And I think, as I remember correctly, as I read through the docs, also printing could be a challenge, right?
Exactly. Sounds both very simple, but in reality, those are additional steps up front next to the cloud migration. For example, the file access. In Windows, you have the //SNC path. This doesn't exist in Linux. If you have a historically grown SAP system, you have hundreds, thousands reports, places where you have entered the file path. You have to change it. Yes, if you would fulfill all SAP practices, there would be a generic way. But to be realistic, most of the customers have this somewhere in the code, doesn't know which file shares they are really using, so it's an upfront project just to clean up your file access. You have to work with mount points, you have to train your teams to understand mount points. If you have just Windows expertise in your company, just to train them that is now a mount point, not longer the // from the Windows world, is a long journey. But I can say it's possible, and I would say with a 3 months upfront project, it's possible. You have to implement some additional codings to exist in both worlds. You can update your existing reports, you update your job variances. It's possible and it's not impossible, but expect 3 months upfront, and this is not part of the cloud move because it's upfront project.
But Stefan, I can remember, as we had our first discussions 18 months ago, that you had some concerns about latency, right?
Latency
Is that still existing, that problem?
No. Or
that concern?
You will see this on one of my next slides, but latency was also a topic. Or what I should say, on this slide we see 4 major challenges. I see a 5th challenge at the end. It's the mindset. Going from on-premise to the cloud, you will see a lot of concerns in your teams. They say, it worked for 20 years, why are we changing now? Does our warehouse still work if the data center is not longer on our campus? Is this working? Latency. A lot of concerns especially from the digital, from the IT side, less from the business. Business says systems have to be running, that's a digital IT business. It's definitely a challenge to take your teams with this project to understand their concerns and to also to address those topics, make tests up front. For example, latency is a huge topic. We tested our warehouses with the latency if they are working. And I can already say up front, yes, it's working. Second challenge we had, SAP always says everything is now running on SAP HANA. At least for the guys who in the SAP world always hear HANA, HANA, HANA. In the reality, also SAP uses for several systems Sybase ISA, which is an interesting journey or an interesting challenge if you are a customer which have already migrated everything to HANA, which means at the end migrating back to Sybase ISA. HANA was designed as a huge in-memory database. Sybase ISA is a classic SQL database. Could end up in some performance issues, could end up in some sizing issues. Can be addressed. You have to address this in testings upfront, in sizing sessions. There are changes. But for the systems, move to Sybase ISA, it's working. An additional topic, AWS, Adobe Document Service. It's a service in the SAP world to generate PDFs at the end. This will be decommissioned in 2027. And our approach was migrating everything to the cloud. And this was one of the first services where we built up on this BTP. SAP now builds Adobe Document Service just as a software as a service, as a microservice. It was an additional task in the migration project, also migrating our PDF printing to RDS as a BTP service. And here I can also say it's working. There are some limitations in some nodes. Please also check on SAP side, there are some restrictions, some technical differences to the on-premise solution, but your developers can address those topics. And the last but the least of the challenges is at least the downtime. Such a migration for our ERP system, around about 9 terabyte, takes more than 48 hours. As mentioned before, the expectation from our business systems are running 24/7. For this, it's very important that this is a strategic decision upfront with your management to address it. There is a downtime. There is no way for the IT department to do it without a downtime. You can make it. It's not possible. You have a downtime. You have to find this downtime. For example, for us, we had to address this already 8 months before. Our businesses find the right date where they can stop the warehouses, where they can do works upfront, bring also workforce, a free day for the workforce to address those topics. But the downtime is a must-have and must be addressed top-down because the IT cannot solve the issue that the technical downtime is necessary. What are our key learnings? It's the migration itself, there are a lot of patterns and templates from SAP. It's still teamwork. You need skilled experts, skilled and reliable partners. It's not just a template to migrate the systems. You have grown systems, you need developers changing reports, you have to change the files. It's a teamwork, it's a team effort. You need skilled basic technology consultants to support you in this journey, because otherwise, with a legacy grown system, we would end up in hundreds of all those small things. Yes, we did this 10 years before, we changed this small piece there. You need this knowledge to address it, to have a successfully cloud move. But to say with reliable partners on SAP side, also reliable technical experts on AWS side.
I could remember past then, we had a lot of discussions about the network connectivity between on-prem and the cloud part. And we had a lot of discussions. And at the end, we said, okay, direct connect connections are the right choice here, because we need the time to transport the terabytes in the time what is calculated. And I think we had great success with that, right?
Correct. But that's what I mean, that partnership is important. Because normally on your side, you have SAP experts which have a broad knowledge on SAP side. But they're not 100% familiar of a hyperscaler, of the terms, how it technically works. So you need both together to make this happen, because otherwise you would fail in small bits and pieces at the end. And Christian, you mentioned it before, latency. Latency, our team, we had a lot of concerns. To be very fair, we're running our warehouse systems, all our warehouses are running with SAP Extended Warehouse. All our box packages are managed by a central system. The warehouse, each route of a package is managed directly by the system, by a synchronized management. For this, latency is important. To be fair, as we've seen, it's working also over the distance. In the past, we always thought the system must be next to the warehouse. The distance in Europe is no showstopper for us, which is a great success, because it shows us also for the rest of our cloud transformation, we can manage it if the protocol and the technology is capable to transfer data over distance. You can also bring everything in a data center somewhere in Europe, not always just next to your production plant. And last but not least, I mentioned it already before, it's a transformation project. You will have a lot of concerns. Will this work in the cloud? Why are we changing existing technology? It's important. It's a people business at the end, to be fair. Take your team members, address the concerns, talk with them, prepare a proper test management to address the topics and help the people to understand the technology. Especially, as I mentioned before, just the file access, it's a huge topic for people coming just from the Windows world. You have to address such a topic several times. This is now the mount point, not longer the past before. And it's important. Without the people, such a project could fail. I mentioned it before. For us, this is a whole roadmap to fulfill our Lux Ignite strategy, to fulfill the digital is a key enabler for the future. We started with the cloud move with a lift and shift. Next step is still migrating the existing systems to S4, step by step, within the next 6 years. The idea is at the end, 2030 is the final last system to migrate. We have huge growing systems, a lot of custom code to migrate. And a second lesson is for me, if you have a timeline of 12 months at the end, 16 months on paper, but Christmas season, Valentine's Day, I also learned there's Valentine's Day every year. You need discipline. Discipline is key. Our CEO always says discipline, discipline, discipline. Otherwise, you would fail in such a tough timeline at the end. And this is how we managed at the end the project.
Cool. Thanks, Stefan. Applause, of course. I would say this is a really great success story, and thanks for sharing the findings and learnings and what we see today. And we talked today about a lot of advantages and benefits and how Swarovski is progressing. It's still not completely done, but it's still progressing, and we go the way together. And for me, it's now important how we get started, how we can help you. And I want to talk about 3 convenient ways we saw from other customers and what we can recommend to you. And we are more than happy, and it's never too late to start now, right, the journey, because it takes time, if you have heard, and we did it in 18 months, I think 16 productive environments in the migration. That's really incredible, so great done, also with your team. And 3 ways what we can recommend and can give you as a next action point to you with. AWS Partner Network. So we have a huge AWS Partner Network, about 92 certified ACP competencies, and partners helps you because they understand you, they are the extended arm of you, and they helps you from the beginning, from the planning, through the SS phase, through the mobilized phase, through the migration phase, and also helping you running that things. And that helps you to de-risk the project in once, right? Because they are experienced and use the RISE methodologies to do that. Second thing, we can just encourage you, try out our skill builders, our free trainings. We also offer a lot of trainings for you, also tailored and bespoke trainings. For example, if you want to get skilled up, all your people which are in a cloud center of excellence or building that new department, we come to you, we can do game days, immersion days, but also deep dive workshops so that you become more cloudish, how to build a cloud native architecture, because that's just one step, right? You can also do other applications on BTP, how to connect to Amazon, AWS services, and to, for example, Bedrock. And helping you, if you have a use case, come to us, we will help you, give you references, and give you the right guidance, how you can make it possible. And the third pillar I want to mention here is the migration assistance. So that means we have multiple programs, but the migration assistance programs helps you in the funding. That means during the migration phase, you will have costs. And we help you with fundings, special for RISE with SAP, to offload that implementation costs, because you're running parallel phases, right? You have your on-prem, you have the cloud piece running, so that creates costs, and we help you to offset that. So, having that said, we're really looking forward to help you together to get on that journey. So please reach out to us. Thanks, Stefan, again to be on stage with me. And by the way, just to give you a side note, he sacrificed his private holiday to be here today. So that's really great. Thanks a lot for that.